I am chronically online, which shouldn't surprise you considering I make YouTube videos, but this has led me to knowing way too much about guys like Cavicular, Fruit Love Island, or Las Vegas Hurricane Windows. Regrettably, talking about my interests to my less online fans begins making me sound like that Tyler the Creator interview where he gets asked about NFTs.
One of the things that keeps getting talked about are NFTs.
What the is an NFT, bro? I'm really outside. What the is an NFT?
Despite my maladaptive social behavior, I believe that being chronically online can have some good here. This is a bit of a bite-sized critique into something that I might be looking too far into, but can you really look too far into things? Isn't being paranoid just being right too early? As you may know, this guy Charlie Kirk got his top blown off a couple months ago, and it was pretty controversial to say the least. But anyway, since his death and the bettering of artificial intelligence, Charlie Kirk has been memed into the ground to the point of basically necromancy. It's to the point now where I forget that he was even a real person and he wasn't some sort of playable internet character similar to Pepe the Frog or those hamster doodles on TikTok. Of all the deepfakes of Charlie Kirk's face on other popular memes, the thing that really stood out to me among these Charlie Kirk memes are the what I call the "don't you hear it" memes. Now, if you haven't seen them before, it basically is somebody filming a random tone similar to the Discord call jingle or something else, and they will claim to be hearing, Charlie Kirk, Peter Thiel, Netanyahu or something within the tone, and then say, what are they hiding from us? What'd they do to him? Implying that Charlie Kirk's death wasn't a accident.
Charlie Kirk, Charlie Kirk, are you Charlie Kirk? Are you Berg? Are you Berg? Are you Mark Zuckerberg? Are you Teal? Are you Teal? Are you Peter Teal? Are you Charlie Kirk?
These guys listen to this. Charlie Kirk was killed by Netanyahu. Charlie Kirk was killed by Netanyahu.
Now, this is an obvious play on the schizogram posts where people with psychosis are uploading their thoughts, I guess you could say, about what's going on and making these absurd connections that only really make sense to them. So making fun of people with mental illnesses has been something that's been going on since the beginning of time. What more to it is there than just having a little goof at their expense, right? And the expense of, I guess, Charlie Kirk as well. A documentarian named Adam Curtis released a documentary in 2016 called HyperNormalisation. I really, really like this documentary, and this is basically my pitch to you to watch the documentary, and I have a version of it linked in my description because it's free on YouTube. I'm going to cover a small portion of what they talk about in the documentary, and I definitely do not recommend watching the documentary high, or you're going to send yourself into a permatrip in hell. Hypernormalization was a term coined by Alexei Yorchak to describe the paradoxical state of life of Soviet citizens in the 70s and 80s. For a quick history lesson, in the 70s and 80s, the Soviet Union was not doing well. Factors such as economic crisis, the failed invasion of Afghanistan, the Chernobyl meltdown, and a fractioning of the political party led to a less than desirable state of the Soviet Union. The Soviet people were not stupid. They looked outside and saw something is very wrong, and something is probably going to happen that will radically change their way of life if things continue the way they're going. In face of the looming social, political, and economic upheaval, the Soviet people didn't really dwell on it. They just kind of shrugged it off. Similarly, the Soviet politicians parroted that everything is fine or is going to be fine, and the people believed them. Everybody believed this lie that everything is just fine or will be fine very soon. The lie of everything is fine was accepted by virtually everyone, not because they actually believed it, but because they couldn't imagine the alternative. If their gut feeling was right and things were not going to be fine, they couldn't imagine that world. So they had to go with the lie because that was what they knew. Okay, so now you might be thinking, wow, Kyle, that's interesting. and feels strangely familiar. You may be able to think of people that you know, or even maybe yourself, are stuck in this state of hypernormalization. I'm sure you've experienced this where your family members or your friends believe that everything is kind of okay. While they can grasp at things aren't going very well right now, they are pretty firm in their belief that things will get better very soon and that we'll all just kind of go back to normal, whatever normal is. Even as someone who does pay a lot of attention and would be considered kind of paranoid, I am still guilty of this. I still have a hard time understanding how dire our situation is and what we're supposed to do about it. But again, what does this all have to do with Charlie Kirk memes? Well, while these do you hear it Charlie Kirk memes are making fun of people with psychosis, they're only mimicking the actions and not the rhetoric. A lot of these memes play on the idea that the US or Brazil did something to Charlie Kirk with his lav mic that may or may not be similar to something that Brazil did to a bunch of pagers. That's as much as I'll get into it here. When you compare this to your typical schizo post, that is a lot more grounded idea than the typical schizo post, which is like, my dog is from Agartha and is channeling the spirit of Charlie Kirk, who's telling me how to make a perpetual motion machine, and I'm living out of hotels because I'm on the run from British Petroleum because they're trying to steal my brain and destroy any of the evidence of my machine. And their machine is usually just some rock with like lamp wiring wrapped around it and like a pencil. You can see there's a clear difference between what is being implied here in these memes, especially when these memes bring up Epstein, Peter Thiel, Brazil. These are all very sketchy characters that are related to Charlie Kirk that have their own real life conspiracies that are very provable that they have done, and nobody does anything about it. Peter Thiel has openly admitted his connections to Epstein, that he continued to associate with him after he already knew that he was a predator. And don't even get me started on Brazil. And definitely do not look into what Erica Kirk was doing in Romania. But my point is all of this stuff is very public information that's borderline front page. Like, this isn't hard stuff to come across. And people just don't seem to care. And even ones that, like me, who do care, don't do anything at all. The closest thing I do is just I talk about it, and then I'm trying to future-proof myself for the coming laws that I'm pretty sure are going to happen, right? The thing is, I'm saying things like pretty sure in case they're going to happen. Rather than it being a reality, I am still living in the state of hypernormalization where I still do not see it as a true reality. I am still LARPing. I'm still doing nothing. I think that these memes are a symptom of hypernormalization, where we all know that things are much worse than they appear. Yet it's easier to turn it into this silly little schizo post joke than it is to confront this actual harsh reality. Or I'm just looking into it too deeply and everything's fine. Thank you for watching.